Good morning. This is Danner. I'm just going to show you guys a quick rundown of all the tools that you can use with the Nuance Management Console for dragging profiles, etc. First, you'll go to the link above, and one quick note is that you have to use IE. This website slash admin console thing isn't compatible with Chrome and Firefox, so just always use IE because there's no bugs in it. You'll just go to the link at the top, which is basically just the name of the server slash NMC, which I assume is short for Nuance Management Console, slash client.xbap, whatever type of file that is. You'll start out by just using your Windows credentials, and it takes a few seconds here to kick in once you type in your password. Here we go. So as you can see here, it just gives you some categories that you can go through. As you can see, there's specific utilities. You can browse the groups of users. You can go over the accounts, which would be the admin accounts, I believe, which is separate from the profiles. Licensing, and then looks like sites, which is something that we don't generally look at. So this is just a quick page when you log in. There's nothing really that I like to use on this page, to be honest, but this is just sort of what all you can do. So you can sort of browse through all these and see some different tools and everything, and you'll notice that some of the stuff is grayed out, and that's just because we don't have a specific user selected to grant or revoke or anything like that. So once you sort of start clicking around and actually select a profile or select an account, then these things will actually show up, like deleting a profile. Well, we can't really delete it until we have it selected. So these will open up once we start to select some stuff here. So let's just go to the sites. This is just an organization overview. And here it's pretty much not going to be used at all. This is pretty much just what happens during setup. So the name of our Dragon sort of site here on the thing on the console thing is just ortho NE. I think the clinically speaking guy came up with that one, so pretty standard there. And here are just the types of groups. So these are the types of people that would technically be able to log in on the console. So the providers can log in here, but they'll have restricted access. The NMC administrators, which would be Brett, Mike, Danner, whoever is using this, and then this is just the name. I don't know. I'm not really sure what this is. This might be for sort of the installers, whatever. But it's really kind of irrelevant. We'll just click on here because I don't really go through these a whole lot. You won't really have to. Yeah. So see here. This is just kind of stuff that was set up during the install, so you don't really want to mess with any of this stuff. I'm just kind of showing you guys what it is. So yeah, so you can do your own audits and stuff like that. We don't really do a whole lot of that because there's not really any need for it. I mean, it's just voice dictation. It's not like I don't know. There's nothing really of importance here except for just general setup. So I'm sure you guys can go through this if you want to in more detail, but you'll never really be in this sort of thing. So I just want to show you guys what it was, though. As you can see, once you start clicking on the modules and stuff like that, it will just bring up a tab sort of in this little area here. If you keep clicking around, you'll just get tabs and tabs and tabs. The little X is right over here where my mouse is, so you just click the X and you can get off of these. And once you get to the home page, you can bring it back here, and you can't. So you can't click this one out of here. So the home will always be there. Let's go to groups next. Here, I believe, yeah. So here is just the type of group that that people will establish on the console, and this is mainly set up by Ryan or the systems administrator. So we don't really mess with any of these. Like I said, Brett, Mike, Danner right now are the administrators here, and whoever is going to be managing this will be in this group right here. The providers would be all of the users, and then this I honestly have no idea what it really does, but it's there, so we'll just go ahead and mention it. As you can see, you can go to group details. We'll go ahead and click on that. I'm not really sure. Yeah, so there's not really a whole lot in here. For some reason, it's only showing my name in here. Brett and Mike are set up as administrators, and I'll make sure that they're set up in here before I go. So that's really that, and you're not really going to use many of the things on the sites or the groups or even really the user accounts. This is basically just for viewing and stuff like that. Okay, you know, I take that back. On the accounts is actually the profiles. So each profile has to have a license. So the profiles and the license kind of go hand in hand, and I'll get to the licensing later. But the user accounts tab, this is where you view all of the user accounts. So this is where it kind of gets a little tricky. The accounts are based off of Active Directory, believe it or not. So one way to just view, so if we were in a large practice, you would actually search by name and stuff like that, or if you really wanted to just focus on one person. But 10 times out of 10, for me at least, I'll just hit the search button just to view everybody, because we only really have about, I don't know, 30 or 40 users on here. And as you can see, it shows, so I basically just did a blank search. It works like EMR does, where if you do a blank search, it brings up everybody. So here you can view account details, and as you can see, everybody's login ID is exactly the same as their EMR name and Windows login name, and that's how Active Directory pulls it over, is they just use the same login ID. So this way it sort of, you know, links up behind the scenes where the doctor doesn't have to remember a separate password for this login, so that's convenient there. And as you can see, you just browse through all the users here, and one thing to note, okay, so it looks like the Dragon service account is just the main account that keeps everything together here, and that's why I showed you guys earlier that I didn't really know what it was, but here was where it kind of comes into play. There's also a default administrator. I don't really think anybody uses that. That might be Ryan, actually. But here is the important part, which is the license. So as you can see, all of the users, all of the console managers, and the creators of this portal / thing will have to have a license. We can create the administrator licenses, or actually no. So I think we're actually given a specific amount. Sorry about that. I think we're given like 3 or 4, and we'll have to grant and revoke specific administrator licenses to do certain things on here, and I think the default will actually have to do that. So I think Brett and Mike are actually in here, but they're just not granted a license yet, so we'll have to go over that. But anyway, here the important part is the licensing, and as you can see, there's physician authors, non-physician authors. Those two that I just mentioned are the voice dictation licenses. So the physician authors and the non-physician authors, you're probably kind of wondering what the difference is. There is no difference except for the price. For some reason, Nuance charges like $9,000 more for a physician license than a non-physician license, just for the sake of the title. So every time we order a license, even if it's for a physician, we'll order a non-physician author license because they don't audit this. I mean, that's bad practice, but what we'll actually do is, as you can see, there's some users that are not physicians that have a physician author, and we were actually given a set amount of physician authors when we bought this Network Edition. So that's why a lot of users still have the physician authors, and what we'll do is if we get a new physician that wants Dragon, we'll just swap that out. So we'll actually go in here and we would go to the licensing portion and then revoke it and then grant it. It's a pretty seamless process there. So yeah, that's pretty much it about that. And the reason that this is speaking right now, and you in order to do any type of testing, you'll have to have either a physician or non-physician license. So going forward, I should probably have a non-physician because it doesn't really matter. But good. If it was done the right way, I would have given myself a non-physician license, but I think this is just kind of how it was assigned at the very beginning. So as you can see, there's a lot of people in here that aren't physicians that have a physician license. So we still have plenty to grant and revoke there if we have to buy additional. So yeah, here you'll just do, you can delete specific accounts. I wouldn't recommend doing it this way. You can import a user, and this is just sort of if you have a pre-existing system, which we don't. So you'll probably never have to use import or export unless we move somewhere, which I don't really see happening. So you may or may not use a delete user account. What we do is we just keep them in here and we just revoke their license. So they'll still be in the system if they ever decide to get Dragon back again, but we'll just revoke the license so they can't use Dragon. So as you can see, Dr. Berghoff, Dr. Jenkins, Kevin Martin no longer works here, so he could actually be deleted. But yeah, so we just revoked Dr. Berghoff and Dr. Jenkins's license. So we'll just go ahead and delete Kevin Martin's. So here it's just saying that if you delete the account here, it's going to delete the physical profile on the server. And since he no longer works here, this is not a big deal. So we'll just hit yes to delete the profile and the user, and Kevin Martin will go sayonara. So that's that, and I'll just click the X over here to get out of this one. This one. So then here we're going to go to the licensing. Here is where you manage the licenses. So as you can see, we have 25 physician accounts. We were given these when we transitioned over to the Network Edition, and sort of getting lengthy on time here, so I'll try and talk faster. So we have 25 physician licenses. We'll always be at 25. If anybody buys a physician author's license, we have to have more than 25 physicians using Dragon, which we don't. So I would not advise to buy these because they're more expensive and they don't provide any more functionality than this type of license. They're just more expensive. It's just a gimmick, unfortunately. So here we have 25 total physician, 8 total non-physician, so looks like 33 users, not a math major, but that looks like about 33 total users. So here is the amount of administrators. So we do have a free license over here. So this is just basically distinguishing how many you use versus how many you have, and that's very straightforward. So for some reason it's not really given the breakdown. I'll try and double click to see if we can. No, we can't do that. So let's hit select one and hit list user accounts. Okay, so here we can actually view who has a specific account and who doesn't. Go ahead and close that. So if you want to, okay, so as you can see, the grant is grayed out, and that's just because we're full. We don't have any free licenses. We can revoke one, but we can't grant any. And I was in the physician author group, so I'll just use myself as an example. If I wanted to revoke a user, it will bring up the list of users in that category, and you'll just select the name. You'll move it over with this arrow right here. That will free up a license. We'll hit OK. And as you can see, my license is gone. If I try and log in, it'll say that I don't have a license. Basically, it'll just give some type of error saying that you cannot log in, or there's no, you don't have access to log in, that type of thing. So here the grant is actually enabled. So you can't grant a license to somebody that doesn't exist. So you have to create their account first, and then you'll create or you'll assign the license there. So here are all of our users that do not have a license right now. These are users that still all work here. They've just decided, hey, I don't like Dragon, or Dragon's not for me, which is fine. So we'll just go ahead and reassign my name back over here. It's kind of cool how it just shows you that you have 0 left, and you can assign multiple at the same time if you really wanted to, but usually it's one at a time unless you're creating the whole thing at once. So that was just a quick example of how to grant and revoke a license. We'll go back over here and show how to add an account really quick. Yeah, so here's just where you'll create an account. It does need to be pretty much word for word, first name, last name of what it is in Active Directory. So if I wanted to just add myself again, all you have to do is type in the first name and the last name, go to group memberships, and assign the person that you're creating the group membership. Now, if I was going to create Brett or Mike, since they're not in here, I would select this. But if I was just creating a standard user, I would just go to the providers and then just hit the over. Same thing as granting a license. I'm already in here, so I'm not going to save that. But then we have to go to, okay, so yeah, so once you, it's kind of messed up here how it doesn't give you the full options until the account's created. So you have to create the account using just those two things real quick. Type in their name, their group membership, or assign the group membership. And you don't really have to click anything in here. We can do all that based on the profile that we create through Dragon, not through the console. So let's view the user accounts real quick. And you can actually, I believe you can double click here. Yeah, so so once you create the account, you'll go to the main list, you'll double click that account, and as I mentioned with the thing that was missing, so when you create the account, all these categories are here, but the credentials, and this is the important one. This is what actually links it to Active Directory, and the domain is already set up. This is a very, very, very simple just addition, but you have to remember it or else it won't work. The domain has already been set up during the entire installation of the server and all that type of stuff. It's just called Orth1. And so here it pulls the name, pulls the organization. You'll just select the domain really quick and then type in their Windows login name, and it will automatically pull over their password and everything else based on this login name. So this is actually our Active Directory domain that's set up. So it goes 100% through AD, which is very convenient. I'm just going to click OK here. Or I would click OK here if I was creating a real user. But since I'm already there, we'll just click Cancel. So that just was a quick rundown of the user accounts, the licensing. Here I'm just going to go over some quick utilities. I don't really use many of these a lot. I want to just go through a couple that I use. I'll actually go through the ones I've never used first. I've never used adaptation status, anything with the nodes I've never done. Don't really use audit events. Don't really use this install because we install it locally. User profile association maybe once, but I don't really think it's relevant to even discuss because I honestly can't remember. It's been so long. So messages are just messages, in this console, which that's what email and talking face to face is for. It's what a phone's for. I mean, if you message through here, there's not many users here in a large-scale site. Maybe I can see this as a useful tool, but not really. But the main ones that I like to use are the profile optimizer status, the tasks, which is just a view of the current statuses that are going on, and the license use. The profile optimizer status will run, so I click that, and it's always good to run this maybe once a month. And what happens is it will actually go through every single profile on the server and reduce the file size, sort of make it mo beta, I guess you could say. And it just has something to do with like the file structures and everything in there, where it just sort of makes it a better profile, supposedly. And that's pretty much all there is with that. I mean, you just click it. It's an actual service that runs on the server. If you click this and it says something like unable to communicate with the POS. That doesn't mean what I thought it meant at the very beginning. It cannot communicate with the profile optimizer service is what that stands for, which is just a service on the server. So actually, real quick, I'll go ahead and do an RDP into the server and just show you what that is really quick. And it's just a basic service on here. This is a very simple server. There's not a lot going on here. So we'll just click the services. And here, as you can see, there's a bunch of services on here. I mean, I've never really done anything on here except for this one. So here, Profile Optimizer server right here. A lot of times, for some reason, if there's ever a reboot or something like that, the service will just stop on its own. So you'll just have to come in here and manually start it, and then you'll be able to go back into the console and run that. One thing you don't want to do is install updates. The server's good as it is. It doesn't need updates. It's a very simple server. The last time somebody ran updates, it actually foobarred everything, so I wouldn't recommend doing the updates because we'll have to do a rollback, and people will not be able to use Dragon until that rollback is complete. So that's just a quick one there. And always make sure you log off correctly. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much, but it's good practice to log off and not just click the X on an RDP session like that. So that was basically it. Here you can see, I think this will just actually show you what has ran and what's currently completed and stuff like that from the current session of the profile optimizer status. And this takes like maybe an hour or two to run. So yeah, so I haven't even started it yet. But anyway, that's just how that works. Click the X's out of here. So license usage, this is actually one of the most convenient one. Irrelevant. This is actually the most convenient tool that I use, and this is just showing who's using Dragon. I think I clicked the wrong category there. Yeah, so okay, yeah, so the reason that didn't work is because I did a really quick time frame. That just means today. It's before everybody logged in, so that's why I was the only one that showed up. But I mean, you can, it's basically just like running a quick report or something like that, where you would just start with, you know, the start date. Usually it's either a month or two to see who's using Dragon. This is useful if, you know, somebody just got installed, they need to get going quickly, and we don't have a license, because license usually takes about anywhere from 2 to 10 business days to get a license from Clinically Speaking, and they'll actually guide you on what to do when you get a license. But anyway, let's do a search and see who's been using Dragon this month. So it looks like everybody's using it pretty frequently. Let's go to the login count. Dr. McManus is tearing it up here with 528 logins. That's not actually a good number. That's a lot of logins, so I'm wondering if he's having some issues. But a lot of guys that move around a lot, like Dr. Kulkarni, Dr. LaSalle likes to log in and log out a lot just because they're kind of moving around a lot. I know Dr. Kulkarni's at Warsaw. He's, you know, at a lot of different locations, so he's constantly logging in and logging out. But in my experience, the guys that log in and log out the most are the ones that have the most issues. Just because they'll close their laptop and walk away from a wireless connection while their Dragon session is still there. So that's why that's, so that's why they have the most issues, because when they do that, it sort of hangs their current session, and that's what corrupts profiles. And we try and tell them that, but sometimes they just forget, which is basic human mistakes, something like that. So anyway, yeah, so I have the lowest logins. Don't remember logging in that many times actually, but that's just where we're at here. And then the most convenient thing is days since last login. Once you start seeing people above 20, that either means that they're on a long vacation or they don't use Dragon, and then that's how we sort of filter out, you know, we start revoking licenses and stuff like that. just to free up a license for somebody that's actually going to use it. So it looks like Dr. Harris is in last place here with 6 days, which is not very unusual. Yeah, so this is basically just a quick rundown of all the tools you can use. This is just the console page. This has nothing to do with the actual Dragon software itself. So it's kind of a separate operation here. This is managing the licenses, user accounts, and just some quick tools that you can use for profiles and stuff like that. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact me.